This episode and every episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show is brought to you by Monger Brewing. Visit Monger at their taproom in Marietta, Georgia, or online at ironmongerbrewing.com.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yeah, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
Welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We are broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios in Marietta, Georgia. And this week, we're talking to UpCountry Brewing. I'm Tim Dennis, and with me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Brian Hewitt.
Hey, Tim. Joining us today, we have John Cochran, the owner of UpCountry Brewing Company. We're going to talk about John's extensive history in craft beer, glorious history in craft beer. One of those words.
Yes.
One of those words.
Old man, it's fine.
The old man Cochran.
The old man of the beer. And we're going to get into their recent releases, and we'll probably talk about gozes that are made with dill pickles, Tim.
You're kind of excited about that.
I am.
I thought so.
John,
yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me.
Sure enough, yeah, we saw that dill pickle goza come in. Actually, we saw it online before, and Brian got a little excited. So when we had that one, it was a good day.
Big fan of pickles.
Yeah, pickles.
And weird beers.
And beer, right? So, yeah, definitely.
We are really excited for that one, too. We did it as a one-off a couple of times, and the response was absolutely amazing. So it is going full-time year-round starting in March.
See? That's,
wow,
I'm telling you, a full-time year-round dill pickle goza. That's pretty crazy. We had one. Was it Southbound Brewing?
I think
Brian?
it was Southbound.
You know those,
call it
you
Pickle
know those
Rick?
guys, John, right?
I
The
do,
Southbound
yes.
Crew? Yeah. So they had one. I think it may have been called that.
I think it was
We got to
Pickle Rick.
try
Did they have that? Was time with like a Rickmobile that was going on? Anyway,
like
it was
that.
kind of weird.
And I know
yeah.
one that was kind of high profile. Martin House out of Texas did run with Made Right Pickles, a little pickle collaboration beer there. So yeah, there's a few of them going around. Absolutely.
Quite the pickle list.
So big week, Brian. We have a new president of these United States of America.
That's right. I've been so busy. I didn't actually realize until after it had happened. I'm like,
So after the
we have a new
inauguration?
president now, right? Yeah.
It did fairly uneventful, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
Based on the rumors I heard, a very good thing,
It did,
honestly.
yeah. I'm sure all quiet there in Asheville for inauguration week, John.
As far as I've seen, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, big day. You know, no matter your political opinions, a big day in history. You know,
It
new
is.
president coming in, and I think we're going to hope for the absolute best here coming up there. See what we can do with it. But if things don't go well, there's always beer, Brian. And did you have anything great, exciting this week?
You know, I didn't get out and do too awful much. I really didn't, but I got into my cellar. So that's the highlight of the week was getting the cellar, having a Bell's Saturn, the bringer of old age from the Planet series. I believe that's a barley wine or old ale. Now I don't recall. I think it was a barley wine, actually.
Okay.
Wonderful still, even with all the age on it. I smoked a fine cigar with an El Baton. Enjoyed the heck out of that. That was delightful.
That's an OG cigar there.
It
right?
is. Yeah. It's a recently purchased, but it's one that's been around for a while. I had a Terrapin Dos Cocos chocolate porter from
nice.
2013-ish.
Okay. Some vintage there.
And this is going back a bit. I'm pulling from a little bit from the previous week, but I wanted to mention it. The Pujala, the Pime U PX, the sherry barrel aged stout, 13.9%. Since I drank it, I want to brag about drinking it. It was nice. Yeah,
good stuff.
Very nice.
I've always enjoyed that.
So the cellar get hit pretty good.
Okay.
I didn't do a lot else. What about you, Tim?
So I had something kind of cool last week. I got to sit down in a virtual tasting with Blake Tyers, who is I think his title is Wood and Barrel Aging Manager, or Wood and Cellar Manager.
I'm going to go with that. Yeah,
yes.
You're looking at me for confirmation. I'm going to say yes.
But they did a virtual tasting of a new stout they released. They did Life in Flux is what it's called. They had 3 variants. The base was a whiskey barrel age, and found out that they until recently used Willet barrels exclusively there. So they had the base beer, and then they had a coffee and vanilla version and a cacao coconut version. And we got to go through those and kind of hear the process and that. So that's a lot of fun, because we were just talking this weekend, Brian, it's kind of a bummer that we don't have beer events.
Seriously.
It kind of stinks. So it was nice. even if it was virtual over Zoom, it was cool to do that tasting. And I could not drink all of those. So I capped them up and I brought them in tonight to share.
I'm down with drinking day-old stouts.
It's a shame I'm off-site, isn't it?
Yeah. I was going to ask you, John, have you ever saved a beer for later? Do you think that's acceptable to do?
It depends on the beer, but absolutely.
Okay.
Do you enjoy it later?
Do you know what? The one that we've done, we recently did it with Black Tuesday,
yes.
which was like a 20.2% stout.
Oh, yeah.
And
with almost no carbonation, honestly, to start off with.
And I think that one sat for a week. And of course, we flamed the top and then we put the cap on and then put aluminum foil over that. I honestly did not taste a lot of difference a week later.
Yeah.
To it. And these are they are 13.96%. And Blake said not Georgia, wink, wink, 13.9, but legitimately 13.9.
Just absolutely nailed it. Yeah.
Right. And so I think we should be safe there. So those sound like ones that should keep for a couple of days, right, John?
It should be fine. Yes.
Yeah. So, and Brian checked out a new brewery/brew pub here in the Atlanta area, Iron Hill, which is a corporate brewery, but actually pretty good ratings. A lot of these corporate breweries don't get high marks for their beer. They'll be 3.25 or whatever if you're looking at something like Untapped, but they do fairly well. And I enjoyed the beers there. They had a nice Pilsner on.
The light lager was really good.
The light lager. Yeah. And then they had the red Vienna lager that they called it was pretty good. And they actually had that, not my style, but that classic Dippa that they had kind of.
Oh, yeah. The Uber hipster. Yeah. I've been there and I am a fan of the Uber hipster. That's the one I typically drink when I go.
But they disappointed me with the food, Brian. They gave me a poor crab cake and tried to pass off tartar sauce as remoulade. And then the way they handled it was just odd. It was odd. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I actually was there. I sampled it. That was weird. It was not ideal, but I like the beer.
John, I have a question for you. We're into one of your beers right now. We just got into your Black is Beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I know anybody that just heard me say that is thinking stout, but you went a little different here. You said you actually approached them about doing something different. So tell us about your Black is Beautiful.
Yeah, everyone was doing a stout for this. So we actually reached out to the brewery and asked them about doing a Swartz Beer, which is a black lager. So we kept with the theme and obviously did the fundraising portion of it. But it's just, this is the beer that when I'm at the brewery, it's my go-to right now. I'm loving this. It's just an easy drinking, a little bit of roastiness to it, darkness, and it's a great easy drinking beer, I think.
See, that's what I was saying, and I didn't think about it. Swartz Beer, like you said, it's a lighter, but you got that roast to it. Because out of the beers we've got, we asked you which one to start with, and you'd never think a dark beer would be where you start.
I did go to the dark beer, didn't I? Yes.
Yeah.
It roast without all the heft. I like that. It's to me, this is the coffee of the beer world.
It's good stuff. Yeah. Good drinking one.
Thank you.
Well, Tim, I think it's time we get into the beers of the week.
Now it's time for our beers of the week. Brought to you by The Nest, craft beer and barbecue in downtown Kennesaw, Georgia. TheNestKennesaw.com.
Well, Brian, as always, we've got a fantastic list to get into. We want to thank The Nest in Kennesaw, Georgia for sponsoring this segment. Craft beer, barbecue. Brian, they're filling growlers now. Did you know that?
Oh, wow, yes.
Now you know.
Now I know.
Take your growler, go up there. They said they have a few growlers, but they have a shortage from their suppliers. So you know what? Grab your own, take your clean growler up there, get some barbecue, fill it up to go. Have a good time. But for this week, we have a great selection of UpCountry beers. As we mentioned, we're into their Black is Beautiful Swartz Beer right now. A little change up from the typical Black is Beautiful beers that we've had. We also have their Scamper IPA. We have a Black Currant Goza. We have the Dill Pickle Goza that we talked about there. We have a Sippin' on Ginger Juice. And John, am I correct? Is that a seltzer?
It's actually a ginger beer / seltzer. I wasn't really sure how to call it, but it's a ginger beer. It's like an alcoholic ginger ale.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
So we've got the regular and the cherry version is that. So we've got some good stuff to get into. And Brian, you know what? We rambled a good bit this segment. So you don't get to share any news.
Oh, no. I can't tell people about Hill Farmstead being shut down for 2 months.
They said they called it hibernation.
Hibernation. A sabbatical. Hibernation. They're referring to it like a sabbatical. I think it's COVID related, but who knows? Yeah.
That's just pure speculation.
It is speculation,
right?
yes.
All right. Well, sometimes you got to speculate, but that's all the time we've got for this segment. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're going to take a break. and we'll be right back.
Have you ever thought about owning your own brewery but don't know what it takes to get one built? We're Storytime Construction, and we build breweries. We're Georgia's most experienced and hands-on contractors when it comes to building new breweries and tap rooms, or expanding existing breweries. We offer full build-outs, remodeling, and additions, as well as consulting and construction management. Give us a call at 770-733-4343. Storytime Construction. We build breweries.
You don't have to pass on great beer to stick to your dry January goals. Athletic Brewing has tasty, alcohol-free craft beer to help you stay on track. And you don't have to skip on taste. Athletics beers have won awards versus full-strength competition. With IPAs, stouts, golden ales, and more, there's a style for every palate. And starting at only 50 calories, you can still kick back with a cold one guilt-free. Head to athleticbrewing.com to get some brews headed your way. And make sure to use code BeerGuys25 for 25% off your first order.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
What in tarnation?
Now, back to the Beer Guys radio show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Remember, all episodes are available on demand, so if you missed the broadcast, get the podcast. Beer Guys Radio is available on all popular and unpopular podcasting apps. Now let's get back to UpCountry Brewing Company.
John, if you don't mind, I got a little nostalgic preparing for this show, looking at some history and specifically your history. Can we talk a little bit about your background here?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's the same story you've heard from everyone else, homebrewed in college, wanted to get in the industry. I actually had moved out to Seattle when I graduated college, and that's where I really fell in love with, at the time called microbrews. I moved back to Georgia in 1995, right when it was legalized and the first breweries were starting to open up. And I actually worked 2 part-time jobs. I was a server at a Red Robin and a fry cook at an Applebee's so that I could work for free at the local brewery.
There you go. See, got to do it.
That's
right?
dedication right there.
Yeah. Where you got to start in some Georgia brewing history. Was Marthasville the first brewery here? I think we had a couple others, right?
Technically, yes. I know there was always a little bit of whether it was Atlanta Brewing that was first or Marthasville.
Right.
Atlanta Brewing had the first license, but Marthasville did the first beer by about a week.
Okay, gotcha.
Wow,
Right.
neck and neck. And that's going back to 94.
94?
Yeah.
Yeah, right in there. Yeah.
And I know you look at the articles, there were huge plans for all that, prepped up, ramped up for the Olympics and everything. But unfortunately, Marthasville closed in 97.
They did, yes.
Is that right? So,
I mean, that was the great shakeout period, if you recall that.
I do. Yeah, absolutely. I got here the tail end of that. I moved to Atlanta. Weird story, but I moved here in 98, was here till late 99, and then moved away for about a year and came back. So I had just a little break there. But, when I moved here, there was a chain of brew pubs, John Harvard's, that they had down in Buckhead, went down there. And Hops, I think that was a national brew pub chain.
Right. And
that
then
was up in Alpharetta, right?
I'm sure you remember Percy's Fish House, I think was one.
Yeah. Yeah. So Percy's, I think I got here maybe after them. Or just, but I know the name. I know the name.
Yeah, it was weird at that time. There were a ton, it seemed like, of brew pubs opening in Buckhead.
Yeah, it was the cool spot then. Buckhead was great at that time. For those in Atlanta that are old enough to remember, that was a really cool spot to hang out before all the stabbings by NFL stars and that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was shortly before I moved there. I moved there after it got lame. So
yeah, you did.
I came with a wave of lameness that overtook the area.
You brought it with you.
I feel bad because I used to come down and hang out at all the various places, the Coyote Uglies and the Makos and whatnot. And
back in the
I thought
day.
it was great. I'd never seen anything quite like it before. So.
Yeah. But John, from there you worked some at Atlanta Brewing. And I think
I did.
Most notably, you founded Terrapin Beer Company here in Georgia.
When I was working at Atlanta Brewing, that's when I met Spike. Actually, John Roberts had just left to go start his brew pub. And Spike was the cellarman at Atlanta Brewing, right? So he took over as the brewer, and then they hired me on to take his place as a cellarman. And that's where we met each other, and we started talking about opening our own brewery someday. in a short, 4.5 years later, we finally managed to make it happen.
There you go. And see, I would love to do, I've said this before, I really want to do a Georgia brewing family tree, and I'm sure it would be the same in many other states. But just to see who started where and where they went from there and branched out. I think I mentioned this before, but one of the guys that was one of the first employees at Sweetwater actually has a brewery in Medellin, Colombia now.
Really?
So there was, there was a guy, one of the guys I know is married to a lady from Colombia, and he went down there and he's like, of all places, I'm in Medellin, and so there's craft beer and apparently lots of cocaine. So you're pretty well set.
That's the rumor,
for what you need there. But Terrapin, John, I think a lot of people look at you guys as part of that group of some of the brewers you're with, the Atlanta Brewings, the John Robertson and his brew pub, Max Lagers, even Marthasville and that. Terrapin really broke a lot of barriers for Georgia beer, right?
Oh, absolutely. There weren't many of us back then, and we were fighting really hard to teach people what craft beer really was.
Yeah. And then so the laws, I think it was 2006 before we could even do, what was it, 6% cap?
I think
John?
so, yeah.
It was, yes. And that was a big deal. That's when Terrapin first came out with that Monster Beer Tour, which if you remember the big
I used to love those. Yes. Those Monster Beer Tours. Oh, those beers when I that's around the time I first came here. That was the thing I looked for. There was for such a long period of time, the Monster Beer Tours and the what was it?
Side projects?
Yeah, the side projects. Oh, I love the side projects too. Those went back quite a ways too, right?
I think, 2007, 2008, maybe.
Yeah.
The first one I believe was hop shortage. With that whole thing that went down when nobody could get any hops.
Yes, the big hop shortage. Those were tough times for beer.
Oh, it was very trying times, I have to say. That's when everyone had to sign multi-year contracts. If you didn't have them before, they would not give you any hops at all. So the funny thing about the hop shortage, the attitude was, well, crap, we're going to run out of hops. Let's just put them all in this beer.
Just load it up there, put them in there, right? And that's, we were talking, I think that's Sam Adams or Jim Cook actually helped a lot of small breweries out to keep brewing beer by helping them get hops, right?
He absolutely did. I got to tell you, he's a very solid dude. But yeah, he had excess hops and he put it out to brewers all across the country that he helped out by supplying hops to people.
See, that's great to see. It's always nice to see that you're, working together. We see it here on the local level, of course, but when you go up beyond that, basically I've heard people say, hey, if it wasn't for him and his hops, I just couldn't have made beer. I wouldn't have been able to keep going there. So
it's craziness.
Yeah. Breweries struggling because of a hop shortage or global pandemic,
Either one or the other. Yeah. Where's I guess he can't help us out with that. It's like he doesn't have shots. He just has hops. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. See what he got there.
Swoop in with the pandemic shots. So Terrapin sold in 2016 and you left to start
UpCountry Brewing. Yeah. In Asheville.
Not Uptown, but UpCountry. Yes.
That's right. So we have a tap room in Asheville. We also have another location in Brevard, North Carolina.
So was it tough leaving Georgia to go build in Asheville, or what happened there that kind of make that jump?
Yes and no. Truthfully, I had always been in love with Asheville. Had always gone and visited and seen the breweries, and when I had the opportunity to get involved in the beer business in Asheville, it was an awesome thing, and all the breweries in town made me feel welcome. It was really nice.
Now, I could be mistaken here. You know how beer rumors go, John. So correct me if I'm wrong, but before Terrapin sold, there was actually some talk of a different location in like North or South Carolina for Terrapin. Is that correct?
They were looking at some different stuff. Basically, Terrapin rented their building and they were getting ready to buy it. And just to do due diligence before they bought that, they looked around at some other places to see what was available. But staying in Athens is what made sense.
Gotcha. Yeah, because up until 2017, beer laws here were pretty restrictive.
They were
very restrictive. When I moved to Asheville and I loaded some kegs of beer in my car and I drove them over to a retail account and unloaded them, and I was actually looking over my shoulder. Right. Weird, but the world didn't.
Yes,
everything went on as normal.
Were you out there looking for the revenuers? I think that was.
I actually just out of habit. Yeah.
Yeah. So that we've heard Terrapin ATL Brew Lab. That is at, I think it's Truist Park now.
Truist Park, yeah.
And they partnered there with the Fox brothers, of course. And because they opened just before the laws changed here, those are actually separate locations because a brewery at that time couldn't serve food and also couldn't do direct sales. So they're actually two separate locations. And because of that, and because of distribution laws, even though the beer is, there's literally only a wall separating the beer.
A glass wall that you can look through.
They can't take a keg and carry it over to that restaurant. It has to go through a distributor.
It has to go into town and come back out.
I've always said, if you look at the Georgia beer laws and the breweries that were open, let's say prior to 2 or 3 years ago when things really started to change, they all became larger breweries, right? You look at Terrapin, Sweetwater, Creature Comforts, everybody. The reason for that was they had no choice. You had to go big or go home. You had to go through distribution to be successful. That's the way Georgia was set up.
Yeah, that's and that actually brings up a good point. We're going to get into the next segment. We're going to kind of talk about the way those things are done. But you're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We need to take another break, and we'll be back right after this. Brian and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Brian. They've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, that's where it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks, so you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth.
Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you. Looking for great craft beer to enjoy at home? Get your beer to go at the Nest in Kennesaw, Georgia. Choose from their 48 taps to enjoy there with some tasty barbecue and take some home with you for later. Grab a crispy Pilsner, a nice tart sour, or a bold stout to sit by the fire. Just bring your growler in and choose a favorite or two to take with you. It's our beer, your growler at the Nest for your brews to go. Check out the beer and food menus before you visit at thenestkennesaw.com.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Cannonball coming.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great radio affiliates, WERL 950 AM in Eagle River, Wisconsin. Catch Beer Guys Radio on WERL every Saturday at 8 a.m. Now let's get back to UpCountry Brewing Company.
John, we are currently sipping on ginger juice over here. And could you tell us a little bit about this? It's pretty interesting stuff.
Absolutely. This is one of my favorites right now. So this is a collaboration we do with a company called Devil's Foot Beverage out of Asheville, North Carolina. They're a non-alcoholic ginger beer company. Actually, one of the founders used to work for us as a bartender at the tap room. He came in one day. He's like, I'm going to start up a soda company. I'm like, good luck, man. But they are killing it. They're doing a great job. So we wanted to do a hard alcohol version of one of their beverages. And that's what the Sippin' on Ginger Juice is. So it actually has, honest to God, buku amounts of real ginger and real lime in this.
It's tasty. So we've tried the basic version, which is the ginger lime. Mm-hmm. You've got a cherry version here. And I think, Brian, we both agreed that we really there was a big ginger punch.
Oh, yes.
In the base one that I really like just the boldness of ginger in a beverage.
Me as well. Yeah.
That's good.
But this other one's got just a bit of cherry to it. It's not a huge amount of cherry. It's very pleasant as well. So was that a collaboration with yet another company?
That was. So there's a brewery close to where I live. I actually live in South Carolina. In Seneca, South Carolina, there's a place called Kiwi Brewing Company. And Alex is a really good guy. I was watching him as he got ready to open up last year. We wanted to do a collaboration together. And we decided to do the seltzer, the ginger beer. And we had not done a cherry version yet. So what you're tasting is actually our first test batch of a cherry version.
So what are your plans for the next batch?
More cherry.
More cherry. More cherry.
I was going to say, I think that'll be approved by all people who've sampled it this evening. So yeah.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So UpCountry Brewing, to dive back into the brewery there, you mentioned, you've got your two locations. Your original location you actually bought, I believe, was Ultimate Brewing. Is that correct?
Right. It's located in West Asheville and Haywood Road. We call it West Asheville because it's the very end.
West Asheville. Asheville's not that big though. Do you need west and
Yeah.
what is it? South Slope, West Asheville?
I tell you what, for a town of 100,000 people that has 30
Yeah.
something breweries in it, yeah, you have to divide it like that.
Okay. You got to know your
Just to
districts there.
organize the 30 breweries into manageable chunks. I get it.
Everything there kind of works in neighborhoods. So obviously you guys know the South Slope, you know where everyone's located, right? So West Asheville tends to be more of the local area. So when everyone's trying to get away from the tourist, they're hanging out with us.
Okay. All right. Cool stuff. Buying another brewery that was an existing brewery in that, what are the pros and cons to going that route, John?
So the pro is that it's there, right? It's set up. It's ready to go. You can look at it ahead of time, take over, start brewing. Well, with licensing, of course.
Sure.
Cons are that it's there. It makes it, there's something already there. So it takes some time and it's hard to transition when you try to come in with a different idea and a different brand.
Did it work out for you? I mean, was there anything you're like, oh man, because I know a brewer, you really like to have the brew house set up for your flow, right?
Sure. But the reason I went there is because I really liked the place, right? I wouldn't have gone in otherwise. So sure, there's some minor things here and there, but overall we've been there 4 years now and I'm still having fun. I'm still in love with it.
Cool.
All right. We're doing our research. I was looking around at your second location, the Brevard location. So you've got no food there and you have to operate as a private club because of the laws there. I'm curious about how that works. I've heard of things operating as a private club, but I don't know what happens there with that.
So that's North Carolina law. And to sell liquor, if you don't have food, you have to be a private club. So in order to sell liquor as a restaurant, you have to have like 30% food sales, which is actually very generous compared to a lot of places. But we set up as a private membership club. And if you go into Asheville, you go to a lot of bars, they're private clubs. That's just kind of the way it's done. So you come in, you pay a small membership fee and enjoy yourself.
Is it every time you come in or do you get a special key card or something like that?
$1 per year to be a member.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when I lived in Arkansas, they did that certain places. Like a lot of places would have to close at like 12 a.m., but private clubs, quote unquote, could stay open until like 3 a.m. So you go in and you pay like $5 for your year membership and you go to these private clubs. And then we had other towns that were totally dry with the exception of private clubs. So they're like, oh, really? This Applebee's is a private club? Really? So
$1 membership at the door.
But it worked out.
They have a bouncer at the front of the Applebee's because that would be amazing.
Most of your local Asheville citizens tend to be members of, 20 plus private clubs.
Sure. Yeah. Just make sure that they can go get a drink when they want to, right?
Right.
Yeah. So now I saw in another interview, John, we were talking about so much talk, especially with COVID, what's happening to brewing. And they've been talking about the bubble for years now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we actually had Bart Watson, chief economist at the Brewers Association, on to kind of talk about the bubble a couple years ago. And I had read in an interview that you said you basically think for smaller breweries, there really isn't going to be a bubble, correct?
Yes and no, and I apologize. I don't recall that, but I will tell you what I say about the bubble now and how you can tell it's COVID changed everything. And unfortunately, I really do believe there'll be some breweries that don't make it through this. I hate to say that, but it's really tough out there right now, especially if you're tap room only and you don't have distribution, you're relying on draft. It's bad.
It's tough. Sure.
Really tough.
But I think not so much a bubble, but how you can tell the industry really changed. Years ago, domestic would come out with something new. Michelob Ultra came out, and craft brewers would look at it and kind of laugh, right? I mean, obviously we'd try it and see how they did it, but you'd laugh at it. Seltzers came out, and every craft brewer says, oh, we're going to make one. That's the difference between then and now.
The difference, yeah. Well, that's something I'd said. We've kind of thrown salt around about craft breweries doing seltzers. We're like, come on, guys. We heard you 2 years ago talking to the BA, about, hey, man, this is craft brewed, heart ingredients is that. Now you're alcoholizing sugar water with fruit in it.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, work with this. But it is something. And I hearken it back to, the wine cooler boom of the 90s. I'm like, there was no craft brewery there putting out wine coolers.
I think it has a lot to do with 8,000 plus breweries being in the country now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are changing into beverage companies. That's what we're doing. I mean, you see that with AB, you see that with Miller, Molson, everybody, right? And we're kind of taking the same tack. That's why we're doing the Sipping on Ginger Juice. We're actually in the process of getting a winery and a distillery license so that we can be an alcohol beverage company. I've got some cool things lined up. Let's wait a year and you'll see some really cool stuff coming out.
That is, we do see it here. We've got several breweries here that have got their distilleries licensed.
Yes.
And, they are starting to talk about winery and that, but when you're fighting to get people into your tap room, you want to have I understand that you want as many options as possible.
To get the most people in as possible. Yeah.
Like with seltzers, there's a ton of people that are gluten intolerant, and it's, hard to find things for them. And that's a great thing that a lot of them can drink. And the difference is a lot of breweries really are trying to put the craft spin on it. When you look at our Sipping on Ginger Juice, it's not just sugar water with fruit extract added, right? It's like real ginger, real fruit, everything. And you can taste the difference.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because I know guys who have been hardcore against seltzer, and there's a brand, Untitled Art. We've had people say, man, I don't like seltzers that I like, but those Untitled Art, that's good stuff there. So
that's true. But I'll give you one more example, and this is kind of a shame, but beer is a lot, a lot less stable than, say, a seltzer is. About a year or two ago, I was with my family. We went to one of those axe throwing places, right? And they sold cans of beer and cider and seltzer and everything. I got I guess it's okay to say the name. I got a 21st Amendment beer. Was looking forward to it. An IPA. My wife picked up a Natty Light seltzer. I kind of laughed at her, but the beer was oxidized. It was just past its prime, and that seltzer was good. And between the two of them, I sat there and I told her, I was like, I'd rather drink that seltzer than this beer. And it's unfortunate.
I get it. Yeah. You don't want an oxidized IPA.
Yeah. That's the thing. We were talking about it earlier. I was looking at the seltzer, like the seltzer has been around for months. I'm like, if this were an IPA, no chance it would have held up.
Right.
In this, it tastes fine.
If it was an IPA, I wouldn't have sent that one to you that old.
Right. See, behold the power of seltzer.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, you're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take another break, but we'll be back very soon to talk more with UpCountry Brewing.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
Looking for an incredible, healthy beer to kickstart your year? Try Athletic Brewing. They are revolutionizing healthy, better-for-you beer. Their beers are all non-alcoholic, but you don't have to compromise on taste. They've won awards versus full-strength competition and start at only 50 calories. Drink more and be healthier in 2021. Check them out at athleticbrewing.com and use BeerGuys25 for 25% off your first order.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Oh, God, here we go again. Dork alert.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guys swag and commercial-free episodes. Now let's get back to UpCountry Brewing Company.
John, we've got into your dill pickle goza. We had to get that into it. Brian is excited. We've been having ideas here. So I'm a fan of micheladas.
Mm-hmm.
I will drink a Bloody Berry. I'll do it up. I'll hook it up. I think this would be great as one. Bloody Mary mix and this dill pickle goza. John, have you done any crazy cocktails with the beer?
I have not yet, but you're giving me some ideas, not going to lie.
All right.
This is great. This is not one-dimensional like I thought like a dill pickle beer might be. This is great. It needs to be garnished with a slice of cucumber maybe.
Yeah, a little.
Here's the trick to this one, right? Because like I said, we made it a couple of times and it was a huge hit. I've had people come to the tap room and said, you know what? We drove from 50 miles away just because we heard about this pickle beer and we had to try it. We actually did a limited release in cans and it sold out immediately. So we're bringing it out full time in March. but people who love pickles love this beer, and people who don't think they'll like pickle beers love this beer. And the reason is it's actually not pickle. We use cucumber, we use dill, and we use pickling spices to give it that flavor.
And it does have the cucumber flavor.
It does,
not so
right.
much like a strong garlic dill type of pickle, but it has the cucumber flavor, which is really nice.
Refreshing.
Yeah,
like you drop that in some water, a little cucumber, mint or something like that. So, but you're right. You do get the layers. You get the cucumber. You get the dill. You get the spices, and I dig it. I dig it, John.
I do as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, do you distribute outside of North Carolina right now? Do you go to some of the neighboring states?
We go as far as South Carolina.
Okay. All right. You're not coming home to Georgia here?
At some point, I hope to. We're supposed to launch in Georgia in April of 2020, but obviously something got in the way of that. So that kind of all fell by the wayside. We're hoping to pick it back up maybe this year. Haven't really started those conversations back yet. But currently, we're in Western North Carolina and then kind of upstate South Carolina down to Columbia, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah, it's still a little early to make big plans of what you want to do. Let's see how everything shakes out, right?
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of distribution, something you do, I notice it's a little bit different. North Carolina does allow self-distribution, correct?
It does, yes.
But you choose to do most through a distributor with limited self-distribution. I haven't heard a lot of people that have gone that route. What made you go that way?
So I think it was the timing and opening so late compared to all the other breweries. When I first started, I was excited. Like I may have mentioned earlier, I put some beer in my car, I drove it over to an account, and I was just blown away that the world kept going. Our first year in business, we did a lot of self-distribution, especially in our local neighborhood in West Asheville. And as the brand got more popular, it's a decision you have to make. Do you spend money on drivers and trucks and salespeople to hit all the rest of Western North Carolina? And we actually talked to a distributor. Believe it or not, our local distributor in Asheville, I believe, carries 14 other Asheville breweries. I think that's right.
Okay. All right.
So obviously they're doing something right if there's that many working there. So we talked to them and actually worked out a deal where we gave them the other counties, but we were going to do self-distribution in our area, right? And within, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks, a couple of the accounts we delivered to said, "Oh, I heard that the Budweiser distributor has your beer. Can I just order it through them when I get other stuff? It's a lot easier for us." And I just kind of shook my head. It's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, at the request. I mean, think of it this way. If you're at a bar that has 100 taps, right? And you have to deal with every single brewery coming in as a self-distributed beer and write the 100 different checks every week to all these things.
That sounds like a pain already. Yeah.
Right.
That is the one complaint that I've heard. The brewers are like, "Hey, we like to do this," but I've heard from bar and bottle shop owners and managers are like, "Look, man, I don't want to be doing this all week. I don't want to have to do that." Like you said, John, I don't want to do this 100 times.
Right. So here's the real secret to self-distribution. This is what we do, and we're allowed to do this. If a bar runs out and they can't get from the distributor immediately, we can run down the street and get a beer to them and do it legally.
See, that'd be good.
Or if it's a one-off small item that there's 3 kegs, like there was a bar across the street from us called the Auditorium. There is a bar across the street called the Auditorium. It's an awesome place. If you guys get up there, you got to check it out. And I heard on a previous show, you were talking about glitter beer. We actually made a glitter beer, but it was only for that bar and no one else. And we just took it over there.
Brian, glitter beers, man. Are you ready? You ready for the road trip
I need
now?
to know more about this glitter beer.
Well, glitter beer was so 2019, let's be honest. It's not something we've done recently. And I hate to admit this, but I actually did not drink it because our salesperson took a big swig of it and looked over at me and smiled. And he had a big mustache and it was covered in glitter. It's like, no, not doing that.
That is fantastic.
I think 2021, you can keep the glitter, but you have to add lactose.
There you go.
I think that makes it fine.
Glitose.
Yeah.
Glitose beers are
that sounds dirty.
That's an idea. I got that one. Watch out.
There you go. Please do that and let us.
Good stuff. John, do you have, when you're brewing it UpCountry, do you have like a style or mission? I know it's not a style because of what we've tried here, but what's your goal with your beers? What do you want to accomplish with your brewing?
That's a great question. Honestly, we're just trying to do a variety of things. Having a pub, we have 20 taps on, so we have 20 different beers at any time, and it's the great opportunity to be able to experiment and play around. When you're doing production, it's just making the same thing day in and day out, and while you get good at it, it does get a little boring.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yep. I know some guys that have went to work for the larger breweries, who wanted to get into brewing, and they kind of expressed a disappointment. They're like, I'm cranking out
making
XYZ IPA every single day.
Right. So just to give you an idea, here's what's coming up or what we've brewed last week and this coming week. And we have, by the way, our head brewer, James Bertram, great guy. He is awesome with what he does. We did a 4-year anniversary beer. So, of course, we did a Belgian quadruple. And I invited back a couple of brewers who used to work for us. So a brewer at the Wedge and a brewer at Leuven Brewing both came in. And we got together and did this Belgian quad. We're actually going to age half of it in a whiskey barrel and half of it in the rum barrel and then bottle it up. We're doing a strawberry milkshake IPA, so we're probably a little behind the times on that.
There you go.
A chai amber.
Chai amber.
Any of those with glitter? Because I'm like, as long as you're behind the times,
No,
you guys
but,
can sprinkle some glitter in there.
Glitos this summer. I got it.
That's easy enough to add, right? Yeah.
So, you know what? We read that you were also involved with a charity, or you founded a charity called Helping Hand. What's the mission behind that?
So that's an internal project for us, and it's something we all kind of hold close. You know that the beer industry, almost every brewer out there is big on community involvement and helping out. That's why we participated in the Black is Beautiful program. This is a really sad story. We actually had a bartender and a server that worked with us in the past that committed suicide last year. And
oh my gosh,
that was probably the 4th person I personally knew that had done that. And I just decided it's time to do something about it. So we got together with Grotto Pizzeria, who's doing the food in our place. Their pizzas are amazing, by the way. And we created what we're calling the Grotto UpCountry Helping Hand. And basically, we're just taking a portion of sales on a lot of different items and doing different things to fundraise. And every month, we're working with a different charity. This month, we're actually working with Pandemic of Love, it's called, in Asheville.
That sounds deadly, potentially.
It does. That's I was pondering the name there. I'm like, I think I see what their infectious love, cover everybody with
possibly,
love, right?
Yeah, can't be stopped. Yes.
Okay,
we're behind it. Yeah,
there.
Wear your masks. The love will get you anyway.
Yes. There you go. That'll get
Did that get weird? I think it got weird. I apologize. It got weird. It was on me.
It stays a little weird with you, Brian, but it gets.
It's fine. Give it time. More. I will get really weird with it.
See, we'll just stay here, keep drinking and that. So now, John, also we want to talk to you can art, man. We want to talk to you some about your can art here. What's your inspiration there?
Wow. Which ones?
So, I see kind of a theme, a common look. Sort of, but I'm looking right now. You're sipping on ginger juice and your dill pickle goza.
When I see those, I think conjunction junction. What's your function? Or this is how you take a bill. That video when I was a kid of like how a bill was made. Like, are they related to that?
So we actually worked with a couple different people. We were working for a while with Good Beer Hunting. If you guys are familiar with them, I'm sure you are. Their podcast. They have a graphic design arm that they work with. God, I hope it's okay for me to mention a competitor. But anyway, they helped us.
We'll just cut it out. It's fine.
Okay. So anyway, they helped us with a lot of the design and the creation of our logo. So the Scamper and the Gozes they did. And then with the Sipping on Ginger Juice, we started working with Macro Graphics, who I have a history with at Terrapin. And he has done a lot of Grateful Dead and a lot of rock art type stuff.
That's kind of what I felt with some rock art, vintage rock art kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Like a little throwback to the Grateful Dead or something like that.
A little throwback there, yeah.
Right.
So, John, thank you so much for joining us. If folks want to find out what is going on at UpCountry Brewing, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, that would be, the website, I guess, the Facebook page. Actually, Facebook would be the way to go.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those. Follow you on TikTok for great one-wheel videos.
Apparently,
right?
Yes.
It's my personal TikTok. You got to check it out. But I'm going to say one last thing before we go. We didn't get to try the Scamper IPA. It's a collaboration with Scamper Van down in Atlanta. They're great friends of mine. They run a van rental service. If you need, you're not flying, you want vacation this year, call Scamper Van.
We'll check it out. Right. We're looking forward to the beer, that's for sure. John, thanks so much. We appreciate you joining us.
You got it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Join us next week as we talk to Peter Kiley of Monday Night Brewing. We are Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.